So, J. Ruud, what lovable book are we talking about today?
Well, Stacey Margaret Jones, I'll give you a hint. The Custom House.
This sounds like Dickens, but we've had two. I don't know.
Well, then we'll find out.
Welcome to Between the Covers, the podcast in which author J. Ruud shares one novel from his carefully curated list of the 100 most lovable novels in the English language. And I, author Stacey Margaret Jones, talk to him about them.
Yes.
So we always start out with him giving me hints about the book and me trying to guess what it is that we're going to be talking about today. Have I read this book?
Yes, you have.
Oh, man, that's always more pressure. Okay. Another hint, please.
Okay, here's hint number 2. The Scaffold.
Okay, hint number 3.
All right. Hint number 3. On a field sable, the letter A.
Oh.
Gules.
The Scarlet Letter.
The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. That is what it is.
I have read this book.
Yes, you have.
In fact, I wrote a pivotal high school term paper on this novel. Changed lives.
It changed yours, I'm pretty sure.
I can't forget it. It was successful. You know, when you write a successful paper, you never forget. All right.
True.
You know that feeling.
I know that feeling.
All right. So, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Yep.
Didn't I guess that last week?
You did, which I thought
So
was kind of
weird.
funny at the time. Since I was thinking, well, no, but that's next week's.
Anyway. All right. Well, it has been, 38 years since I read it. So
A mere
I guess
38 years.
Getting it on the third clue was respectable. Okay. So when did this novel come out?
1851, I believe.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's later than I think of. It's not. When is it set?
It's set in Puritan New England
Okay,
in
that's
the 17th
why.
century.
Okay, that's why I think of it as an earlier novel, but it's written and then he goes back. It's a historical fiction.
It's historical fiction.
Okay, and how long is it?
Oh, not very long.
not long.
Maybe
That's-
250 pages,
I think that's
if that.
why I chose it. I will share a little bit more about that in a little bit, but I mean, we're not going to talk about this book without me talking about my amazing high school
I know
paper.
you'll have to talk about your paper because it's relevant to loving this book. I think.
Yes, thank you. All right, so it's not too long. It was historical fiction when it came out in the mid-19th century.
Mid-19th century.
So who else likes this novel?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
It's almost as if you knew.
And almost. It's been admired and praised over the years by discerning readers. George Eliot considered it one of the most indigenous and masterly productions in American literature.
Oh, wow.
Henry James went even further, calling The Scarlet Letter beautiful, admirable, extraordinary, and he gushed, "It has the inexhaustible charm and mystery of great works of art." D.H. Lawrence regarded this novel as a perfect work of the American imagination. And if imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then it may be that John Updike's 3-volume retelling of the story, A Month of Sundays, 1975, Rogers' version in 1986, and S, 1988, is its biggest tribute.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
It's on the Guardian's list of 100 greatest novels in English. It's on the Observer's list of the 100 greatest novels in the world. It comes in as number 20 on Bookman's 100 favorite novels of librarians. It's number 10 on the OCLC Complete 500, which measures the number of library shelves in the world that the novel appears on. So it's number 10 of all the books in the world. It's on the American Scholars list of the 100 best American novels, 1770 to 1985. And it's number 3 on the Literary Hub's quintessential American fiction, according to the rest of the world.
Oh, my goodness. All right, then.
So lots of people.
Lots of people. Well, we'll get into why it's lovable. I think a lot of times, especially with these classics, people feel like, oh, I have to read that, or people say they read it, but they haven't. But it is an enjoyable novel, and we'll get into that. So give us the down and dirty summary. What's that book about? Response when you're in the elevator and you're coming to your floor.
Well, I would probably hit the door close button at least once, just to make sure.
That is the trombone of despair right there.
So it opens with a young mother, Hester Prynne, enduring the public disgrace that is her due in 17th century Puritan New England for committing adultery and giving birth to Pearl, her illegitimate baby daughter. She's sentenced to wear a scarlet A on her clothing at all times as a reminder to her and everyone else of her sin. But Hawthorne's universe is one in which a transcendent moral law does exist, and his characters are not exempt from the consequences of their actions, but redemption is possible for those who sincerely seek it.
Okay. All right. Well, that is Harps of Glory. I got to tell you. You prepared and you acquitted yourself well. So
thank God. That's my big stumbling block of each episode.
All right. Well, as you were giving your summary, I was thinking back to The Handmaid's Tale and why Margaret Atwood chose to set that novel in the United States instead of in Canada. She is a Canadian citizen. Yeah. And I think
she says in the United States instead of Canada because she's been to the United States.
Exactly, but she had specific reasons. Yeah. Like she felt the puritanical roots of this country just in being in Cambridge. Yeah. And being there, she could feel that there's something different, right, in the culture here based on the founding parties, so to speak, and the religion of the founding people.
At least one of the religions of one of the founding people. Right.
But, I mean, she said it was palpable, which is why she wrote the novel and set it where she did. Yeah. And I think these books would be interesting to read as companions or, conversant with each other.
That's true.
Because they're talking about some similar things. Similar themes, but I know I don't want to keep anybody, waiting any longer for the triumphant story of my high school research paper. I didn't know when we started this podcast that I would get to talk about this, but I should have known because I know that this is a great book. So my senior high school English teacher was Treva Grock, and she had us do an assignment to prepare us for college. So instead of just getting sources for writing about whatever topic we wanted to write about, she said, you have to write a paper that will be the kind of thing you have to write in college, which is your professor will tell you what you have to write about. You don't just pick whatever you want. So she went and got a lot of books of literary criticism from the South Dakota State University Library, checked them out, and put them in her classroom. And then she told us we could choose from 3 books, Scarlet Letter, Great Expectations, or Billy Budd. I said, the Great Expectations is too long. I'm not going to do that. Billy Budd, I don't care. So I think I'll do the Scarlet Letter.
If you're just going for something short, Billy Budd would have been your
Exactly,
your
but
answer.
I was like, it might as well be 500 pages because sometimes if you're not interested in something, it can't be short enough. So I chose the Scarlet Letter, and when I read it, I was reading a lot about Pearl, the child, and I felt as a reader that she was a very realistic character. She acted in a way that children act. And as a high school student, I babysat for extra money. And I spent a lot of time around little kids. And I just thought, wow, she's so realistic. She's so interesting. But a lot of the criticism of this book is written about how Pearl is kind of a symbol of her birth, that she's kind of demonic or, like naughty and uncontrollable, and because she's a product of this sinful union. And I was like, Hawthorne has seen a child, and he is writing about kids. So I looked up, things from his diaries and, his journals about his own children and compared them to passages in the novel and said that while he may have made choices, of this child's behavior that were consistent with Prynne's relationship to the community after her adultery had become obvious, Pearl is a very realistic child, which makes the novel even stronger because it is not didactic in that way, right? She is a normal kid, and a parent of a kid can relate to this book. So there, and my English teacher said that she loved my paper very much, and she had been grading all night, and she was just so happy to read my paper.
Well, I know that feeling.
So, it's one of the... I think it was exciting for me because I had an original idea. I didn't read somebody else saying this. I read the book. I was like, wait, everybody says this about her, but she's actually very realistic. So I would like to write about... I also use child development textbooks to write about the age of Pearl and how she was acting consistently with children that age and their psychological and brain development, etc.
That is fascinating.
Yes, I know every listener wants me to stop talking about it now so they can run out and try to find this paper, but it is not published.
Well, if they really want it, maybe they can email you and
That's right, they can
ask
email
you
me.
for a copy of your high school paper.
I will see if I can find it. I'm sure I still have it because I would have never thrown that away.
That's interesting because, it's interesting for a lot of reasons. But one reason is that most students who've read this novel remember, maybe with chagrin, that it opens with an essay that has nothing to do with the novel. It's called The Custom House.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, I didn't remember that. I blanked.
And Hawthorne uses that to kind of talk about his job that he had in the custom house under the Democratic government of James Knox Polk, and how he lost that job under the newly elected president, Zachary Taylor. And he satirizes the parties, and he satirizes some of the people, but he also says that while he was there, he comes across this Scarlet letter. And a text that kind of explains what it was and who wore it and that sort of thing. Of course, that's completely imaginary. Right. But he also explains there why the title of the book is not The Scarlet Letter, a novel. It's The Scarlet Letter, a romance.
That's right.
And he says, a novel must be faithful to the probable, to ordinary realistic events. In a romance, on the other hand, a writer is free to utilize his imagination, the ahistorical, even the supernatural, in presenting not a specific realistic truth, but the truth of the human condition or the human heart. So he's not bragging about Pearl being realistic.
Well, but he still wrote a realistic kid.
Not.
Right, he still wrote a realistic kid.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And wasn't he like roommates with Pierce or something?
Franklin Pierce, was his roommate in college. He might have gotten a new job when Pierce became president, too, I think.
He might have. Pierce became a less successful president than Hawthorne was a novelist. Let's
That's
just put it that way.
And a less successful president than Polk had been.
Yes, Polk kept all of his campaign promises.
He did. Now that we're
riffing,
talking about American history without knowing all that much about it. But
speak for yourself. I've read biographies of these people. Why is this novel so lovable? So I want to talk about this specifically in, this book is, people know the title. They know the premise of it, right? The idea of the Scarlet Letter is used a lot as a way of saying that somebody is publicly marked by a sin that they've committed.
Yeah.
But I really do want to focus on why it is enjoyable to read this book. So why do you think it's a lovable novel?
I think that the characters are interesting. They may be, as he suggests, characters of romance are kind of generalizations about aspects of the human condition. But they are, as you point out with Pearl, they are relatable. They do have human characteristics. And Hester Prynne becomes, as time goes on, somebody who rises above the symbol that she is forced to wear wherever she goes. But she does so many good works among the people that by the time years and years have passed, they don't even remember what that A is for. And they just see her as an angel, basically, who comes to help them in their difficulties.
Well, and the A is two-dimensional, but she herself is not. And that is, I think, to Hawthorne's ability to write beyond the premise of the novel, right? Like, here I have this idea. This happened to this person. Sometimes writers have an idea like that, but they can't really live up to them because, that's 2 pages. And then what's going to happen? But she is such a real person and likable.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I think you like her is that she doesn't feel guilty. She's been guilty of adultery, and she's had this child not from her lawfully wedded husband. Well, her husband had basically deserted her and had gone off.
RUNNOFT?
Well, yeah, and he'd gone off into the woods. He's a physician. He's gone out to look for cures among the Indian tribes and things. And she thinks he's dead. He's been gone so long. And she never loved him anyway. And he never loved her. He basically wanted a wife to bring to the New World. She was willing to do that, but it wasn't a marriage of love. And then she does fall in love with Arthur Dimmesdale, the minister, and has this affair with him, has a child. But Hawthorne says, in all her intercourse with society.
That's an interesting choice of words.
However, there was nothing that made her feel as if she belonged to it. She stood apart from mortal interests, yet close beside them, like a ghost that revisits the familiar fireside and can no longer make itself seen or felt. She's like, it's like she drifts somewhere outside of society. And then later, Hawthorne says, individuals in private life, meanwhile, had quite forgiven Hester Prynne for her frailty. Nay, more, they had begun to look upon the Scarlet Letter as the token not of one sin for which she had borne so long and dreary a penance, but of her many good deeds since.
Well, she has a dignity that her punishment can't touch.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with that kind of personal sense of self, and you alluded to this in the beginning, a morality that she has a sense of that is not impacted by what's happening around her.
Yeah.
So people see her as, she seems to be kind of outside society, but she's centered within herself.
Yeah. And I think Hawthorne kind of identifies with her because he feels like he's sort of outside his society, which is the same society, 200 years later,
right, but
still kind of at the base of it are these Puritan mores. And he's an artist, and he doesn't, as she is, he's like a ghost that can no longer make itself seen or felt in the society.
I think a lot of writers feel that way.
Yeah.
That's one reason that they're good writers, is that there's something about them separate from those around them that allows them to observe with some objectivity, right? Like Edith Wharton was observing this world that she was a part of but wasn't a part of. And then he's also part of this society founded by Puritans, which Atwood could feel, 100 years plus later.
Yeah.
So it's just there, right?
Yeah. And Hawthorne himself was, you may recall, a descendant of one of the judges in the Salem witch trials.
I did not recall that.
So he has this, guilt, this Puritan guilt in his own background that he wants to sort of distance himself from.
Right. Well, it's really interesting, too, because, of course, she has to wear the letter. The man doesn't have, nothing happens, right? Like,
yeah, well, because nobody knows and they've
Because
made
she's
sure that
pregnant.
nobody knows that he is the father
Right.
of the child.
He's the minister.
He's the minister, and he's loved by the people of the town. He publicly demands that she give them the name of the father of the child. And he himself is that person, and she refuses to do it, and she never lets it out.
So I can't remember this specifically. Does he do that because he knows she's never going to say, or is he like, please say, and then I'll get my punishment as well?
We don't know. I don't think we ever know. We do know that he's tormented.
I hope so.
Whenever you see him with his hand over his heart, right about at the place where Hester would be wearing her letter. Mm-hmm. And so he always seems to be ailing. He always seems to be sick. And it seems like it's from this tormented conscience that he has.
He has a somatic injury.
Yeah. Pearl asks him when they're out in the country, and he is with Hester and Pearl. Pearl wants to know why he won't acknowledge them in the city, but only out here in the country. Mm-hmm. And there's a point at which he comes and stands with them on the scaffold where Hester originally was standing when she was being condemned by the crowd, but it's at night. Mm-hmm. And Pearl wants to know, will he come and stand with us here during the daylight? So he may want her to tell, but he may be hoping she doesn't tell.
We have a limited perspective.
Yeah. We know that it makes him a better minister. Mm-hmm. Because his sermons and his dealings with people, he's able to relate to them and to all the things they may feel guilty about and to all the things that may be, giving them pain in their soul.
Because he labors with this shame and guilt.
Yeah. So he's a very interesting psychological character.
Sure.
And it's finally... Well, I don't know if you'd consider it a spoiler.
Don't spoil it.
All right.
I mean, you do want, if people haven't read it, you want them to read it, and you want to keep something for them to enjoy.
Yeah, no, it's not a spoiler to tell you that the father is Arthur Dimmesdale, even though she never says, because you know that from very early in the novel, because her husband comes home.
Oh, okay.
And he gets there. He's coming out of the surrounding forest with an Indian guide. Mm-hmm. And just as he's coming out of the forest, he's seeing her on the scaffold being condemned. Oh,
that's quite a homecoming.
And nobody, of course, knows that he's her husband except her. He becomes Dimmesdale's doctor.
Oh.
He doesn't condemn her. People say that he's just a kind of demon in human form. But he doesn't condemn. He
What's
never
his last name?
Is Chillingworth, Roger Chillingworth.
Right. I was like, it's not Prynne.
No. Well, it might be. He goes by the name of Chillingworth.
Oh, okay,
When he gets there.
Dr. Chillingworth.
Yeah, he's a doctor. But he tells her, she won't tell him who the father is either, but he says, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to do something about that. But he doesn't condemn her. He kind of understands, which is one of the things about him that seems most human. Right. He understands what she's done and why, and admits that, it was never a marriage of love, admits that he was too old for her.
That's interesting because, it's interesting that Hawthorne is writing this novel in Victorian times, right? When Western society was very moralistic and structured, right? And certainly women have always borne the brunt of moral responsibility in Western culture, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, he's writing this, that's a subversive novel. And honestly, looking at where we are today, it's still subversive.
Yeah. Now Dimsdale, because he seems to get sicker and sicker as time goes on, because as the weight of his sin weighs heavier and heavier on him, Chillingworth becomes his doctor.
Right.
And gets very close to him. And uses that closeness to kind of keep turning the screw in him and to keep kind of
So he suspects him?
Oh, he knows it's him.
Oh, he knows.
He knows.
Even though Hester hasn't.
No, but he's looked around.
It's got to be him.
That's got to be the guy.
Well, also maybe Pearl looks like him. I can't remember.
Well,
is there any guidance of how she looks?
No,
okay.
I don't think it ever says who she looks like.
Well, the firstborn usually looks like the father, so that might have been a giveaway to any observant party.
Might have been if you were really looking. And but Chillingworth was really looking.
This isn't realistic. It's a fantasy. So she may not have looked like a romance. Yeah. You're right. So she may not have looked like her father in the romance.
But essentially, Chillingworth takes the role of a kind of bad angel. You know the cartoons when you got the good angel on one side and the bad angel on the other, and he's kind of the bad angel. That's like the devil that keeps squeezing his soul.
And yet he's not doing it isn't he doing it because he's like an advocate for his wife?
No, he's doing it because he wants to torture him.
Oh, okay. So he is the bad angel.
He wants to torture this guy.
Yeah.
And Hawthorne, the Puritan belief is, I guess, that human beings are born evil. Mm-hmm. They're born damned. Mm-hmm. They can be elected by God for salvation, but they can't earn it because they're born evil.
Right.
And that was something that Hawthorne really didn't believe.
Right.
And
even though he was raised in that tradition.
Yeah. But by this time he's outside of it.
Yeah.
He has this great paragraph, I think, where he says, "It is to the credit of human nature that except where its selfishness is brought into play, it loves more readily than it hates. Hatred, by a gradual and quiet process, will even be transformed to love, unless the change be impeded by a continually new irritation of the original feeling of hostility." Mm. And he's talking about Chillingworth when he gives that paragraph, that it is possible that Chillingworth's hate may turn to love because that's the natural inclination of human beings. But Chillingworth deliberately attaches himself closely to Dimsdale, and he receives that same new irritation every day until the narrator finally tells us, "Chillingworth was a striking evidence of man's faculty of transforming himself into a devil, if he will only for a reasonable space of time undertake a devil's office."
Well, it's interesting because he calls it, as you said, a romance, and yet there's a lot of realism in this beyond Pearl, right?
Yeah,
and because
it's psychological realism.
Well, and it's kind of this realism that he's writing about to contradict the religious tradition in which he was raised.
Yeah,
like let me look around. I'm going to write about how real people might act in this situation, and it will conflict with what we have been taught.
Yeah,
in terms of our religious belief, right? I will show you that there is truth here in my novel that conflicts with the truth we are told.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't get that out of the book.
No.
Right? I think a lot of people see it as this is a story about Puritans. But it's kind of... I
mean, it is, but...
it is, but it's not exactly
but it's a
celebrating them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not... I mean, I think it's interesting, too, because that seems very realistic to me, not just around kids. Kids will have, altruistic impulses, right? Yeah. I mean, even... toddlers will give you something, right? We've seen our twin grandsons give each other things that they wanted themselves, but they would give it to each other. And it's really the broken personalities that persist in the narcissism of childhood, right? It's the people with personality disorders, whose personalities are broken by environment, that are the ones that, inflict all this pain and suffering on their communities and beyond, because their psyches are broken. A healthy psyche is naturally loving, I think.
Yeah.
And you can see Hester has a healthy psyche.
Yeah.
She, the community that's trying to break her with this punishment, but nevertheless, she persisted in her own persona, right? She's not broken by what happens to her because she knows who she is and she has a fundamental understanding of moral behavior.
Yeah.
Even if she's not moral all the time, right? Or she's like, I didn't do anything wrong, right?
Yeah. There is a little bit of that, yeah.
Right.
And I feel sorry for Chillingworth.
Because he's so burdened by his...
Yeah, this hatred, this need for vengeance.
Yeah.
And in the end, after all this pressure, after all this tormenting, Dimmesdale does reveal that he was the father.
Okay, are you supposed to share that?
I don't know. I can't talk about it without sharing that. And Chillingworth is disappointed. I mean, he's destroyed by it because he's become so demonic. And the purpose of the devil is to bring you to damnation. And the fact that Dimmesdale escapes that is crushing for Chillingworth.
Yeah, that's also interesting too, because it is also Hawthorne saying, aren't we supposed to love? Shouldn't we rejoice in the repentance of another?
Yeah.
And yet he doesn't rejoice because he wanted to be the delivery device of the pain and suffering, right?
Yeah. But in fact, the truth is he brought it about by his tormenting him.
So he wasn't
Dimmesdale.
He was an instrument of
He was the instrument of Dimmesdale's salvation.
And yet
instead of his damnation.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps. So he had a immoral motive, and yet he creates this moral outcome.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because
this is theology, but that is kind of Hawthorne writing about grace.
Yes, it is. And also writing about God's ability to turn evil into good.
Right.
Or to use evil to create good.
So the book isn't a pushback against all of Christian theology.
No, it's a pushback against the specific kind of rigid form of Puritanism.
Right. That's interesting. Because it isn't the community's rigidity that brings about Dimmesdale's restorative act. It's the demonic.
It's the demonic presence of Chillingworth
the evil
that keeps torturing him and that finally brings it about.
Wow, how fascinating! I need to reread this, I guess.
I guess you do.
It's been a while.
38 years.
38 years. Again, is there anything else you want to touch on about the lovability of this novel in terms of just picking this book up and reading it? I mean, is it easy to get into?
No.
Oh.
Especially if you read the
Custom
House beforehand, because it doesn't seem to have anything to do with what's coming, and it's a fairly long essay. In itself, if you're just going to read it for itself, it's interesting. You get into the politics of the time,
right,
and you get into these satiric portraits that Hawthorne kind of paints of some of his co-workers. So it has its own interests, but if your plan is to read the Scarlet Letter, it kind of takes your mind off of that for some time.
So let's give warning to people who haven't read it. Like, if you pick it up and you don't like that, just keep going.
You can skip it.
You can skip it, or come back to it later, or
read it afterwards.
Read a summary of it online and then read the book. I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't give up because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you start to get bogged down after a few pages of that, just go to the novel and save that for later.
Yeah.
If this, we're kind of getting into why might people not like this book.
Well, let's just go into that then.
This is, when my son was reading this book as a sophomore in high school, I remember him complaining about it. And I remembered actually liking the book when I read it in high school.
Well, you liked a lot of things.
That's true. I was reading a lot of classics at the time and stuff. But when I started reading it, I did think, the style and the diction of this book are really not ideal for somebody in 10th grade.
Yeah.
And it's, it's like trying to teach Henry James or something at that level.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's going to be something that a lot of high school students would like, although, as I say,
high school students read it.
A lot of times, many read it, and some of those do like it, and some people don't. But just as an example, I actually took a paragraph from kind of late in the novel, from the 12th chapter of the novel, and I cut part of it from the middle because it's a very long paragraph. But here's Hawthorne's style. But before Mr. Dimmesdale had done speaking, a light gleamed far and wide over all the muffled sky. It was doubtless caused by one of those meteors which the night watcher may so often observe burning out to waste in the vacant regions of the atmosphere. So powerful was its radiance that it thoroughly illuminated the dense medium of cloud betwixt the sky and earth. All were visible, but not with a singularity of aspect that seemed to give another moral interpretation to the things of this world than they had ever borne before. And there stood the minister with his hand over his heart, and Hester Prynne with the embroidered letter glimmering on her bosom, and little Pearl, herself a symbol, and the connecting...
I quoted that in my paper, by the way.
I'll bet you did. And the connecting link between those two, they stood in the noon of that strange and solemn splendor, as if it were the light that is to reveal all secrets, and the daybreak that shall unite all who belong to one another.
Well, it is a romance. I mean, it has if that paragraph were a painting, there would be a lot of flowers and gilding and, right? Starry night.
It's very flowery. It's a very poetic passage.
Yes.
And a lot of symbolism in that passage. It's Scarlet Letter may be one of the first symbolic novels written in America. The light is a symbol of the coming judgment when all sins will be brought to light.
Right.
Pearl, herself a symbol, is a manifestation of Hester's passion and her sin. That's easy enough for a 15-year-old, I think. But just consider the style, the nouns that Hawthorne uses: radiance, medium, singularity, aspect, interpretation, splendor. They're words that tend toward abstract mental categories, and they don't conjure up sense impressions. They're not concrete. And the adjectives: the sky is muffled, the radiance is powerful, the splendor is strange and solemn. And none of those adds any concreteness to your perception, I don't think.
Well, but they are. I mean, the writing is very inventive, because do that last set you did again.
The sky is muffled, the radiance is powerful, the splendor is strange and solemn.
The splendor is strange and solemn. The strange and solemn aren't words we use often with
splendor.
We think of with splendor, right?
No.
And so, I mean, it does take your mind new places, right? The reading the writing can light up your mind. But you're right. I think that it's not necessarily for 15 and 16-year-olds. I mean,
unless you spend a whole class period talking about that paragraph and the things that are being done with the language.
And I think maybe I found it more accessible. I was a little bit older. I was probably 17. And also, I was reading, because of the assignment, I was reading critical work along with the novel. So
which is also pretty abstract usually.
Right, but it was helping me, right? Like, this is what this means. This is what this means. So I wasn't just picking it up and putting it down on my own. So that I think that's very interesting because also I had read Jane Eyre and, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Which, those kind of Gothic novels have a lot of kind of similar abstract, moodiness, right?
Yeah.
Like they take the mind to a kind of emotional place, right?
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, like I said, when I read it, I don't remember being sort of turned
but
off
you're right.
by
I
the
mean,
style.
it's not Hemingway.
No. I mean, the sentences that I quoted in that paragraph, there 5 of them are complex. They're not simple or even compound. And the last one, it has an unusual construction that has 3 very elaborate predicates. So it's not Hemingway-esque in any sense,
right.
or it's not the way a contemporary novel would probably be written.
But the themes are, as we would say in news media, evergreen, right?
Yeah,
especially in America, where we have our roots in these ideals, right? That there are people in politics that are animated by the duty to keep someone from getting something they don't deserve, right? Instead of we're building a community in which all may flourish, right? I'm going to get up today and I'm going to do my part to make sure that person doesn't get something they don't deserve. But I mean, according to Puritanism, do any of us deserve anything?
No,
right?
no, you do not deserve. You certainly do not deserve grace.
Right. And so this novel seems like it's just as relevant today.
It's definitely
especially
relevant
for Americans.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with that. I'm just saying the style is maybe a little bit more than most high school students.
And maybe some adults may not enjoy.
Maybe they should be reading Billy Budd.
But if you can get into it, honestly, I don't think there's any shame in reading something and then looking online for some commentary on it, even like just kind of summary and themes, right? Sometimes we all need a little assistance. And if you're not reading a novel in a class, sometimes it can help to just Google, right? Like, what is the first chapter, what are the themes of the first chapter of The Scarlet Letter, right?
Yeah.
And the more you get into the book and the more used to it you get, you need less help like that, right?
Yeah. This is Banned Book Week
yes.
We're airing this, and it's.
I was going to say I was going to ask you in the beginning how much this has been banned because it does seem like a strange book for high school students since it's about the product of adultery.
Yeah, and it's been actually since 2 years. Within 2 years of its publication, it has been the target of moral crusaders who have wanted to ban the book on the grounds of immorality.
Right.
It's in the last part of the 20th century and even in the first part of the 21st century, it's among the 3 most often taught books in high schools.
Right.
But it's been banned and challenged in various school districts. Most famously in 1977, when a group of Michigan parents claimed that the book was pornographic and obscene.
Oh, wow.
Presumably because its protagonist has a child as a result of an affair, although anyone who has ever read the book knows that it never depicts the affair.
Yeah, that book is not pornographic.
Yeah. So apparently those parents thought it was immoral simply because it discusses an affair. There are those who object to the fact that Hester Prynne is treated sympathetically because damage.
Because they got up that morning saying they're not going to let anybody get anything they don't deserve.
I guess.
Oh my God.
Shockingly, but not really surprisingly, a large number of the book's challengers object to the fact that Hawthorne presents Hester's vengeful husband in a negative light, because apparently they believe the poor guy has every right to sadistically avenge the stealing of his property. I mean, I think...
Yeah.
So there are those who don't like the book and who have sought to ban it.
And yet they'll ignore the outcome of grace and the restoration of the community, right?
But that may
we don't want that.
Well, it might be too complex.
Yes, that's true.
If people are just looking at the bare facts
Right.
of the novel. So anyway, that is why people have over the years sought to ban the book.
Okay. All right. Well, what ranking has this novel earned?
Well, I am going to put this at number 47.
All right.
So it is right after Midnight's Children.
Oh, interesting.
And right before Moby Dick.
Okay. So I mean, there's kind of a little pocket
Moby Dick and Scarlet were published, I think, within a year of each other. Very close to each other. So they're sort of
American literature. And then we also have the Midnight's Children that has to do with societal religious belief and the response to same.
Yeah.
Look, I'm an English major. I can find themes.
Yeah, I can find correspondences somewhere. All right. So
well, very interesting.
Go. Yeah.
Thanks for humoring me with my early literary triumph.
Yes. And speaking of your literary triumphs, it must be time for Chaos Reader.
It is. So I'm just reporting back. I am doing better with reading. I am trying to stay off some of the social media until I read at least a chapter a day in my book. And I've been reading this novel, Star of the Sea by Joseph O'Connor, which I believe the dogs gave me for my birthday. And I'm not quite halfway through. I'm really enjoying it. It's about a ship that comes from Ireland to the United States at the beginning of the potato famine. I think it's in the 1840s. And so there are people on the ship, obviously, in the steerage, who are leaving Ireland to try to find a way to live and eat food in another country since they cannot eat food. And then it also deals with the people in first class. One of the people is leaving he's British, leaving his Irish estate because the estate has gone under. And he has his own relationships with different classes of people. And it's just really interesting because it deals with a lot of different outcomes as the famine is beginning, right? And the way that it impacts the people. Dickens is just a passing mention in it because there's an aspiring writer who's a journalist on the boat, and boy, does he hate Dickens because he's successful.
Jealousy.
He is
Envy.
jealous. And also, what was Emily Bronte's pseudonym?
Ellis Bell.
Ellis Bell. They refer to her Wuthering Heights by Ellis Bell, and because it's sweeping the nation. So it's kind of interesting because we've talked about Dickens and Bronte in our podcast, and to see them as contemporary writers is kind of an interesting perspective. And then it also has a lot of ship's logs and it's kind of presented as a journalistic work, but it's fiction. Like this person is collecting this information from here to kind of figure out what has happened. And it's really imaginative and really well done. And of course, I was really interested in the famine, the outcomes of the famine, because we were just in Ireland, where they lost more than half their population due to either through death or emigration. So, and also because, of course, that the famine, there was food, but the British overlords would not let the Irish people eat anything but potatoes, and the potatoes all died. So there was no food for the people who actually worked on the land and, were the inhabitants of the land before empire, right? So it's really a good novel. I highly recommend it. I haven't come to the end, but so far I'm enjoying it. So Star of the Sea by Joseph O'Connor.
Awesome.
I will check in again.
All right.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank our producing sensei, Jerry Bruno, who also makes the cover art for our YouTube, which you can find us on YouTube if you like to watch things. And we'd like to thank all our listeners all over the world. It's always fun to look at the list and see where people are listening from. And especially would like to thank our listeners in the UK this week, since we've had some opportunity to correspond with one delightful listener there. So please like, share, tell your friends, keep listening and watching, and we'll see you next week.
Between the covers.